He's the one trying to get. Yeah, in Florida. We're supposed to come home today, but we stuck till Wednesday. Yeah. Oh, shucks. Yeah, I know. My wife and kids have been down there forever, but. Patty, she just stayed home. I just go down there and fish in July and there. The other guys ain't going down there, but that was my plan before I got to Florida. To get it up here, to retire, which would have been 2 years ago. It's been retired. And so I think.
Call to order the meeting on Monday, March 16th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Jenny.
Mayor Vogel,
Here.
Councilmembers Mulebauer,
Here.
Faunes, here, Udvig, here, Robinson.
Here.
On to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Mulebauer. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Robinson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. On to consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Faunes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Udvig. Do I, any discussion items? I've only got one. It's just a small correction in the city council minutes from March 2nd. And it's at the very end under the mayor report. It was just, when I went to the hole in retirement thing, it says Poland. So if we could just correct that spelling in that, that's the only thing I have. Anything else, anybody? So, okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Meeting open to the public. Just please step forward and state your name. Josh, if you want to wait, that's okay. If you want to wait till your item comes up later on, so.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. First of all, I'd like to thank Paul Carpenter and his crew for doing an awesome job opening our city back up. I had people come from out of town and says, wow, you guys got plowed roads already? Good job, guys. I know you don't hear it enough. I come up to touch on something that comes back from the last meeting when I mentioned Cambridge hasn't had a sales property tax since 2000. And Joe had mentioned that they're getting it one way or the other. So it got my curiosity going. I'm going, what are we missing? And so I got snooping around. I'm one of those guys that will dig around and try to find a solution to every problem. So what I came up with was what I found is that in like 2019, they changed some amendments that says that the city can impose a sales tax, a local tax. There's currently like 53 cities in this state that are imposing this tax. I did a little bit of math, and I might be wrong, Darcy. I'm not really a financial wizard like you are, but just a 0.5% on the sales of the liquor store would have generated about $16,000 for the year. That's just the liquor store. There's a lot to read in this. I sent the email over to Kate, and she says she's going to dig around and look at it a little bit. But if we could actually combine, and it says we can finance 5 projects this way, if we could actually go back and combine City Hall, Public Works, and I don't remember if the water treatment plant still got a bond on it or not, but even here, if we can combine all of them together, and even Highway 47. That way, it's just not our citizens that are paying for this. There's many that come in from Oak Grove, our neighbors to the south, our neighbors to the east, west, north. They're coming in and using our infrastructure. they'll help pay for that 0.5% would help pay and alleviate some of the property tax that we'd have. And yeah, I'm not a fan of another tax, but I'm also not a fan of paying 16.5%. Kind of off the cuff when we said that 0.5% from 16 to 16.5 would save the citizens only what, $30 a year? Something to that math. I guess I could sit down and put it all in pen and paper, but that 0.5% just at the liquor store is going to cover that $30. That's just the liquor store. I absolutely encourage that we dig into this as a mayor and council and staff, that we dig into this a little bit more and see if there's something there for us. I did look, Kate, Elk River is on that too. Cambridge, Elk River, Avon, Blue Earth, Detroit Lakes, Excelsior, Rogers. And that was something that was told to me from one of the finance administrators in Rogers, who says, why don't you guys do the same thing we do? We have that city tax. So I think we're missing something that's there, a tool there that we could actually use as a city. And I encourage that we take a look into this. That's all I have tonight.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. I think that's in the League of Minnesota House of Representatives. It's out there for us to look at, but I encourage that we do take a look. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mayor Rolfe, come on forward.
Never agendaed for
All right. We'll try to keep it brief here. Those of you that may not know me, my name is Weston Rolfe, and I'm mayor of Oak Grove. I don't know if you need my address or not, but it's 11. Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, I'm here for a couple things today. One, I had tried to kind of make a goal to come here once a year, once every couple of years. And I learned last night when I looked at my calendar, it's been almost 4 years. So some of you weren't even on the council at the time. So I figured I probably should get back to it here. But I'm here to talk about a couple of things. One is I really appreciate the partnership that we have. That hasn't always been the case with Oak Grove and St. Francis. I'm not here to point any blame. I think what I said 4 years ago, and I know a couple of you were here at the old building, that we all probably could have done a little bit better. But right now, I think we're in a really good position. We're working on water, wastewater. We updated those contracts to get us through 2050. Most of us probably won't be here at that point, but maybe some of us will. We've had a road project that we worked together that I think that's what kind of stemmed some of the issues early on, but we were able to act like adults and work through that. And we have a very nice road now shared between the two of us. It's easy to sit here and say, well, that was St. Francis's fault or it was Oak Grove's fault. But again, like I'd already said, I think we all could have done a little bit better job at that time. I'm not trying to bring up the past because there's something going on right now. There's actually nothing going on right now, which is a good thing. I made an announcement last month that I'm not seeking re-election as mayor. So I'm not here, like Councilmember Robinson said, my farewell speech. That's not really why I'm here. I'm just trying to set our city up for success, and whoever takes my spot will continue to have this good working relationship with one another. So that would be my goal for all of us. With that, I also have a couple things here. I believe it was your last council meeting. You guys voted on a resolution for election integrity for the PERS. And I want to say nice work on that. Election integrity in Oak Grove is important to us. I'm not saying it's not important everywhere else, but we're a little over passionate about it. So I appreciate you guys moving forward with that. I know not everybody may feel that that's the right thing to do or not, but I always look at it and say, I'm not here to judge anyone else. This is your city. You guys have to represent the people the way you think is the best way for that. We have, voted on that resolution. We also ended our contract with the county for our electronic poll pads. I'll be honest with you, we've made basically zero progress when it comes to the county, but I can tell you we're not done and there's more to share at another time. But again, I'm not here to push you guys into anything. This is your city. I just wanted you to know that I respect you for whatever way you went on that. And I'm glad that you're at least talking about it. I also saw online, you changed the flag back, which I see, which I think is great. I know not everybody thinks that way, but I'm glad you guys did. And I'm really just going to kind of leave you with this, because this is something that I think started some of these issues in the past that, again, we're past. But I think it's fair to let people know that, you're representing St. Francis like we were representing Oak Grove. And I feel that if you're just doing it the best way you know how, and you think you're doing it the right way, who can blame you? Our two cities are not always going to agree. We're in a good position now, but I'm sure things will come up in the future. And I would just ask, like I'm going to tell my same council on my last meeting, that if we veer off, we work hard to just come back, because really we're only hurting your community and our community when we're not doing that. So, and again, I appreciate the partnership that we have with you guys and with your staff. I feel like there might be one person here I don't know. So it clearly shows that we've got a really good thing going. And I want to continue that. But I do appreciate your dedication to your residents here. I'm in St. Francis almost every day. There's obviously a lot of things going on up here all the time. But I think I can admit for everyone, it's a very thankless position, but it's an important position. And now that I'm on my way out, I'm not looking for votes. I can say whatever I want. I can do basically whatever I want. So it's exciting, but that's really all I have for you. Certainly reach out to me anytime you may have questions, which I know you guys have. And we're also building a new building, which I'm sure most of you are aware. We're starting to put the roof on, so it's finally coming together. And my final goal of being mayor for Oak Grove is to have one meeting in that building before it's done. So we'll see what happens. But that's all I have. Again, if there's anything we can ever do to try and help with things up here too, I would encourage you to reach out. Maybe we won't agree to it, but I think we just need to really keep the conversation going. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Weston.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. 1 second, Tina. I think the mic went dead there. You wore the mic out.
Hello, Tina Carroll. Just a couple of things that I wanted to bring up tonight. And one thing that Mike was actually talking about, I got here a little late, so I apologize if this is redundant. But as far as the city tax is concerned, he brought up numbers for the liquor store. Think about how many people use our gas stations and that don't live in St. Francis. And if we could impose a city tax, which I know other cities do that, think of how much more money we could gain in that aspect as well to help fund other things like the streets and the buildings and all of that. So just another thing. I'm not sure how that goes about. But a couple other things that I had questions on. If somebody sends in an email on a question, say they can't make it to the meeting, they could send it to anybody in general. So how often do you guys get those emails from people with questions or concerns?
Not very often.
Okay.
If you got the mayor title, you tend to get them more.
Yeah, and I mean, to your, just a quick segment insert on that. We also have, Kate's looking into this more with me. We do have a problem right now. And it's a very common problem. It is something that's really wrong. It's the spam filter.
Ooh, that's not good.
Put a lot of things to spam to protect because of all the hacking that's been going on. governmental agencies. So unfortunately, I think some emails are getting lost in that, and we're trying to come up with at least some, maybe I don't know the answer to it yet, but one of the answers I'm trying to find out is if, can we at least send a response back to that person saying, you fell into spam, try again, or try another method, something so they at least know it didn't go into a black hole and disappeared. So.
Yeah, because my question is when people do send messages in, are those gonna be brought to the council meeting and actually read or just responded to? Because I know I couldn't make the meeting one night, so I had messaged Amy and she brought it up. And there was not one response from anybody at this meeting, so I was like, okay, well, it was read, but nothing was done about it, but my other question is, I know you guys, this is broadcast on YouTube and saved on YouTube, but there are comments on there. Whose responsibility is it to actually respond to those comments?
Jenny, I don't know.
We actually do not respond to any social media comments that are posted on any of our social media pages.
To me, that's not a good thing when people ask questions on there because they're responding to a specific meeting. And I've been going back through some meetings and watching old meetings to kind of understand what I have maybe missed or did not try and re-understand things. And I've seen a few with comments from people and it's like, okay, they're just randomly out there and nobody's responding to them. That's not necessarily, that to me makes me feel like my points don't come across and nobody cares about them.
Wouldn't it channel directly to the individual or the council as a individually? I know there's a spam problem, as they mentioned. I just recently got a email from a constituent. I think it was, today is Monday, on Friday, talking about a bridge for sale. But wouldn't it, the social media is such a vine of poison ivy. It just grows and grows and grows. Now, you could start a dialogue there, but you've seen it yourself, I'm sure, Tina, where it just gets crazy, go nuts. Why don't you direct it? I think it's more beneficial to directly, to either A, come in, B, email, or B, pick up the phone. I mean, all our phone numbers are on there as well. It's better addressed that way rather than causing a flurry of, you get these smart Alex popping in here and then it's just a free for all.
No, and I
nothing gets done.
understand that, but if somebody is commenting on a specific meeting, like they're watching that on YouTube and they make a comment. So nobody is looking at those comments and maybe somebody had a question where you could reach out to that person. You can see who it was and see if that is a valid user and actually reach out to them yourselves.
It'd be
Instead
easy
of
also for that
commenting on
individual to
YouTube.
wouldn't it be easy for that individual to reach in directly themselves then?
That's going back to why do we have it on YouTube then? We should be able to comment on that and if it's not going to be commented or monitored by anybody, why is it even out there?
Some YouTube stuff has the comments shut off entirely, which would be, that's open for discussion as well, but I don't know. I just think a more one-on-one dialogue is a better way to go rather than blow it up out there,
But as you're sitting there watching it, that's when your thoughts start coming through. You don't think, oh, I got to write this down so I can remember to message X, Y, and Z about this, where I can make that comment and somebody can look into it and get back to me. That's just my opinion, so.
I'm just going to chime in real quick. There's some difficulties in it from the standpoint of, if a citizen puts a comment on there, I mean, when you've got 5 different voices up here and we might all have different viewpoints on it. So how do you give a coherent answer for the entire council back to them?
Not necessarily do you have to give them a comment right then and there. That's where you can figure out who it is, see if it's a legitimate person. And somebody on staff can even reach out to them and maybe it's something that can be addressed by somebody on staff. But if not, then it goes back to the council and say, so-and-so brought this up. How would you like to address this?
You're looking at extra labor hours too in order to fund that.
Aren't they, isn't that to me, I'm sorry, that is one of my biggest pet peeves. It's not my job.
No,
It's not my
I'm
job.
giving you the logistics of what's included in that though. I'm
I
not trying to say it's
understand.
not my job.
But, okay, who monitors that now? Does it just go out there and nobody ever looks at it again?
So my take on it, you're probably not gonna like what I have to say, but the reason it's on YouTube is so that the public can view it. It's there for their it's public knowledge. They can view it if they choose. And I agree with Kevin as far as if they want to reach out to either one of us or any of us. You asked who responds to emails, all that stuff. If you send me an email, depending on what it's referring to, I'm going to either say, I can ask Paul if it's parks or roads or whatever, I'll get back to you, or I'll forward it to Paul and say, could you respond to this person with an answer? YouTube and social media, I mean, there's so much, I spent a lot of time and I haven't done it nearly as much lately, but when I see things randomly on what's going on in St. Francis, which is not an official city site or anything, and if I see something or comments, I'll refer people sometimes to the departments, things like that. But if you're asking for, like, I don't rewatch the videos and I don't know if the comments are all up there at one time, I guess. I've viewed some.
If somebody watches it 6 months down the road, it pops up.
Right.
So then if nobody's actually monitoring that, then maybe we put a blanket statement out there that says, turn comments off and just say, if you have questions or concerns or comments about anything that was discussed at this meeting, please reach out to your council.
Or the city, yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea because it's not necessarily, I don't think it's financially when we're already looking at high costs with taxes and all that. Incur those extra duties to monitor social media comments because it's just too time consuming, I believe, for that, to be financially responsible. That's my opinion on it.
Well,
just
and
my
that's where I
opinion.
say, there should be something so people don't think I'm commenting on this and nobody's getting back to me.
Well, and just like you said, Carol, that somebody could watch it 6 months later and make a comment and nothing's happening. I would be up for having the comments be turned off and maybe a disclosure that says, if you have questions about this, reach out to the city or the council, like.
Right,
So,
exactly, something.
Yeah, because it is probably a black hole that people think they asked a question or made a comment, and it might be appropriate for us to respond and it might not be.
Right,
But
and that was,
I would say that we should shut them off.
because that was my concern, because like I said, I've been going back and seeing them and I'm like, there's been a few meetings where I've seen comments and I'm like, okay, I hope these people have had their comments actually read or dealt with, so. But, well, thank you guys all for everything you do.
Thanks, Tina.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Oh, Aaron.
Council members, Mayor, Aaron, what they said. I want to thank you for passing that resolution, and I'm glad you had the fortitude to do it. I was just kind of reading through the quotes of like, Stalin kind of said this, it doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the votes. And Mayor, you brought this up last time, kind of how the county is kind of, you've asked them questions and they don't even respond. And it kind of reminds me of that quote about integrity. Integrity is just out in the open. It shows itself, and just how the county and the state have kind of acted about this, like we posed questions to them. And again, I've said this over and over again, where is the controversy in wanting integrity in your voting? Just to count these things. Yes, I get that it has man hours involved, but again, to just be sure and just to have no doubt what the count is and who won and who didn't, it doesn't seem, I don't know why it's being made into a controversial thing. So again, I want to thank you. Thank you guys for keeping up the good work. I know it's a thankless job. I see all you guys do all your stuff, and I really appreciate it. Everything that you guys do. So thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. And just real quickly, just to clear the record, we finally did get a written response from the county.
really?
So, yep, correct.
We'll talk later about
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wish to speak? See none, we're going to go on to special business. Do you want to address that, Kate? Do you want?
I can open it
Yep,
if you would like.
yep.
So Mayor and Council, before you tonight is the award of financial reporting given to Darcy, our finance director. She has started receiving this award back in, did you fix that? Back in
Yes.
2011. I printed off an old report that says 3011, so many, many years. With that, she's continued to keep high standards and keep us in the limelight of getting this award year after year. So tonight we are presenting her with the award of financial reporting achievement.
Come on up here, Darcy. This award is from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. Presents this award of financial reporting achievement to Darcy Mulville, Finance Director, City of St. Francis. Well done. Okay, we're now on to the public hearing for the Charter Commission amendments. Kate.
Yes, Mayor and Council, before you tonight, we are holding a public hearing for 4 amendments to our Charter Commission. So we are working through this in a couple of different steps. The first section here would be the public hearing to basically address and also announce the issues. However, no vote will be taken with the public hearing. After the public hearing, we'll go on to vote on each topic individually. Travis here worked with me on all of these items before we went to the commission. And so the 4 things that we are looking at holding the public hearing for, one is to address vacancies in office in section 2.05 in regards to reducing the time we have that open when we do have a vacancy. The second thing is when ordinances take effect and reducing the length. The general provisions of updating the filing fee and then also changing a shall to a may, which they have very strict definitions within our charter. These 4 items are general housekeeping. They each have an impact that's individual. However, they are items that we have found really impact how we are doing our day-to-day business. The one caveat to this is the public hearing. As we go through the first hearing of the ordinance amendment that is required for all of these steps, none of these will take effect until July because of this process is very lengthy. So this public hearing is the first step. Going through the first readings is the second step. The second readings, if they move forward, would be on April 6th, which will be led by Jenny, and then they have to be out there for 90 days. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions in regards to the public hearing, and then we can walk through each item individually. And with that, I'll turn it over for you to open it.
Open the public hearing for the Charter Commission amendments at 6:26 p.m. So anybody from the public who wishes to come forward, please come forward. And I just should note real quick on that too, one thing, the Charter Commission voted unanimously to make these switches. So it's, I think both you and Amy are on there, correct? Anybody from the public wishing to speak on it? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:27 p.m. So we don't have any old business. We're on to new business where we're going to address these charters one by one. So Kate?
Yes, Mayor and Council, the first one on our list is section 2.05, which has to do with the vacancies in office. In the event that we have a council member that steps out throughout their term, our current process is to have this open for 30 days in which we receive applications for consideration to fill a vacancy. What this would do would shorten that to 14 calendar days. And what we have found with the last few vacancies is that 30 days really is too long with our ability to use technology, one, to spread the word, collect those applications, that there was a lot of time where we were just sitting and waiting for the process to end. So with that, we would end this. It would still keep the process about 40 days because we do interviews and we have to declare it. So there's still a time process in there, but this would at least shorten it, the open period by roughly those 16 days. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, the timeline, this would not be effective until July 9th.
Any discussion? We'll just go down the line, I guess. Kevin?
I have no comments on this one. I like the idea. Expedient.
Sarah?
No, I have no questions either. We had a good discussion on it at the Charter Commission. I think we realized that the speeding it up a little bit just gives us that extra person back on council instead of waiting for one.
Amy?
I did what Sarah said.
Okay, Joe?
My only question, I guess, and I don't know, in the last couple vacancies, do you recall what time period you received your applications? Was it basically front loaded and then nothing?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, the only concern I would have is, and I totally agree with you, I've dealt with a few of these unfortunately, and I think it is better to get somebody on council, you get the 5 number back. The only concern would be obviously, residents may feel as though that it goes too fast because they missed their chance, whatever, but obviously those people that are paying attention, we do get the information out there, that we can fill those seats. That's all I have.
Okay. And I would agree with everything everybody said, so. No, we're voting on it in a roll call vote.
Correct.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the city charter amendment to section 2.05 vacancies in office ordinance 353, amending the city charter relating to section 2.05 vacancies in office? Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion. Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Mulebauer. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Faunus. Roll call, please vote, Jenny.
Mayor Vogel,
Aye.
Councilmembers Robinson,
Aye.
Udvig,
Aye.
Faunus,
Aye.
Mulebauer.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. On to number B, the city charter amendment to section 3.09, when ordinances take effect. Kate?
Yes, Mayor and Council, before you tonight is Charter Amendment to 3.09 that has a relationship with our ordinances, where we have found that these 30 days, so we are required to do the first and second reading, and then we take effect 30 days after. When you add in the application process through the planning commission, through our first and second reading, and then we wait for the newspaper and get 30 days. Some of these can take 12 to 14 weeks. And we recently had a business that was greatly impacted by this and not able to even lease their space while they waited for some of this. So the time is of the essence on many of these. So what this would do would bring it down to 7 days. I put a piece in the agenda that kind of shows like our current, how it would, speed up that time on the end. The first 3 steps would remain, but then shorten that comment period to 7 days. So our property owners could really take effect in a little bit more timely fashion to address their land use needs. So this would affect all of our ordinances when they're created. A lot of our land use applications, our variances, our minor splits. So things that really do impact a lot of our business owners. Again, this wouldn't take effect until July 9th, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Start with you this time, sir.
Cool. I do not have any questions.
Okay. Amy?
I do not as well.
Joe?
No, this makes the most sense to me in all of these.
Kevin?
No concerns here.
Likewise. So do I have a motion to approve ordinance 354, amending the city charter relating to section 3.09 when ordinances and resolutions take effect?
I'll think that motion's.
Motion by Councilman Udvig. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Robinson. Roll call, please, Jenny.
Mayor Vogel,
Aye.
Councilmembers Faunus,
Aye.
Udvig,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Mulebauer.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. On to item C, city charter amendment to section 5.01, general provisions, filing fee. Kate?
Yes, Mayor and Council, the next one is to increase our filing fee from $5 to $15. As this wouldn't take effect until July 9th, it will not be applied to this year's filing period in May. However, this hasn't been updated in many years and would allow us to capture a few more dollars to help with the administration process with this as well. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Amy?
I don't have any questions.
Joe?
I got nothing on this one.
Kevin?
Yes, I do.
You're welcome.
Where are there other cities canvas to see what they currently charge? Personally, I think 15 is still too low. I mean, $5 was too low. We've had people apply and then back out. And it causes havoc, and then they actually get on the ballot and they didn't want the job to begin with. So I think it should be like $25 or even $50. To be honest with you, I might be reaching a little bit, at least 25.
I believe the maximum for in-state statute is $15.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Looked at that at the charter meeting.
Well, I think I think it's a disgrace when people take advantage of it, of the situation and wanna, I'm grateful they want to serve, but I think it's disrespectful that they put in and then they step out. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But if 15 is the norm, then I guess I'm okay with that again. They should take it very seriously as far as what they're doing, because there's a lot of, you know, you're swearing when you sign off on it, you're swearing that you know, you have the right to do what you're doing, but that's all I got.
Good. Sarah?
Yeah, we discussed this at the commission and we said the same thing. We were told that that's a max and, you know, $15, it makes people think just a little bit more, not totally, because $15 isn't a huge, but $5 is pretty easy for people. So I think even that $15 is gonna make them pause maybe just a little bit and I mean, we do have people who occasionally throw their name in and aren't serious about it, but that happens everywhere. I think that would happen no matter what rate you have. People think about it and then they're like, hey, maybe I don't want to do this. Okay.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, I share the same sentiments, so I don't have anything further to add to it. So do I have a motion to approve ordinance 355, amending the city charter relating to chapter 5, nominations and elections, section 5.01, subdivision 2, filing and nomination?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Faanes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Udvig. Roll call, please, Jenny.
Mayor Vogel,
Aye.
Councilmembers Mulebauer,
I,
Faunus,
Aye.
Udvig,
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
On to new business. Item D, city charter amendment to section 8.01, improvement and levy assessments. Kate.
Yes, Mayor and Council. So this one is basically a one-word change to bring us from shall to may. When the road program was created a few years back, we still had in our charter that we shall be assessing 50% to the properties for these road projects. By changing this, it catches the charter up to our current process with our road program. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, this will take effect July 9th, but it shouldn't have any impact as we still operate under our road program. That I'm happy to answer any questions.
Joel.
I had a question, might be for Paul though, but are these, with the road program costs, the sidewalks are typically a part of that or? Okay, so that's all part of that. That's fine. That's all I have.
Kevin.
I have no concerns.
Sarah.
No questions.
Amy.
None for me.
I don't have any questions as well. So do I have a motion to approve ordinance 356, amending the city charter relating to chapter 8, public improvements and special assessments, section 8.01, power to make improvements and levy assessments?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Mulebauer. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilman Faanes. Roll call, please, Jenny.
Mayor Vogel,
Aye.
Councilmembers Robinson,
Aye.
Mulebauer,
I,
Udvig,
Aye.
Faunus.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. On to item E, approval of plans and specifications and ordering bids for the 2026 street rehabilitation project and the Woodbine Street Extension Project. Welcome, Sam. You're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I do have a presentation to go through quick. I'll hook in here. Just let me know, I guess, when I'm good.
Technological.
Different, huh? Okay. Very good.
We should have tested it before.
Okay, who's got item F? Skip ahead to item F.
Sam.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Great. So I put this little presentation together just to give everyone some more details on the projects we've been working on. And it pertains to the resolution in front of council tonight. So we got the 2026 street rehabilitation project and the Woodbine Street extension. So starting with the street rehabilitation project, this is similar in scope to some work that was done last summer on 229th Ave and 233rd Ave, where we're just putting an overlay on streets. This project incorporates two separate residential areas. So kind of some details within the projects. We'll go through, do some spot repairs on the concrete curb and gutter. We'll look at all the ADA ramps that are out on site and replace the ones that are currently not meeting ADA standards. And then kind of the meat potatoes of the project itself is the new overlay, the new bituminous surfacing that will be going on. So as I mentioned, it's kind of two separate residential areas. This is the first one. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but you got Poppy Street going along here. So just west of there, everything that is highlighted is receiving the work. There are two different colors because those streets in red are municipal state aid streets. So those will be receiving state aid funding. The rest, the blue, are local streets. And then this is the second area, which is east from there. You can see Arrowhead Street running through. So just west of there, you can see the local streets highlighted in blue, all local in this area. So then the next portion of this project is the Woodbine Street Extension Project. So this would be a brand new road construction, which would extend Woodbine Street, which currently terminates into Bridge Street right now. So just north of that, we'd be extending Woodbine Street about 300, 400 feet. And then it goes west into the new 230th lane and then terminates with the cul-de-sac. So you can see kind of the main detail with this project, or why we've been working on it. It'll extend city streets to allow access to city-owned properties. We'll be adding sidewalks to these streets throughout. And then we are also putting in water main, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer to help service these city-owned properties. So this kind of shows the project better. So you can see the extension of Woodbine Street, which then turns into 230th Lane. We'll be putting a cul-de-sac over on the western side. So then this will be servicing two city-owned properties. So Area 1 and then Area 2. So both, everything as a whole, here's some of the pricing. So those totals are with overhead, and we're at 990,000. The construction totals themselves for each project were about 50-50, and those were about 430,000. Yeah. And then, so then we just have the project scheduling here. So if anyone has any questions on that, but we're looking to get the resolution signed tonight for council to approve plans and specification and authorize advertisement for bids. Then hopefully open bids by later in April, approve bids early May, and then start construction early this summer and have it wrapped up by the fall. So then just to end on here, kind of the reason why this is being brought forth is that there is a resolution for council to approve plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids for the 2026 street rehabilitation project and the Woodbine Street extension. And if there's any questions.
Thank you, Sam. And real quick, I just want to, I don't know that was mentioned in any of this stuff. So other than the Woodbine extension, the rest of this is all part of the master plan from Public Works for street repairs.
Correct. Mayor and Council, the reason the repair on these other streets, I'm sure everyone's heard it, delamination. We've been going through systematically and replacing the streets. That's what the other piece of this is simply repairing the delamination. In fact, I believe we have it in different stages, and this takes a great, I believe we're over half done once we get this finished as far as the delamination process. So
just go down the line. Kevin, you got questions?
yes, can you explain delamination to people who don't know what delamination is? Essentially, we have an engineer in the room that probably do it better, but I'm gonna give my best shot, Sam. Mayor and Council, delamination is the top, when bituminous is put down, it's put down in two different layers. The first layer, and then the second course, or the wear layer. The wear layer, delamination it starts to break apart and it creates potholes. Some of these potholes
are only half an inch deep, some are 2 inches deep. And what happens is once it starts delaminating, it continues to spread over the whole road. You've all seen it. You've all driven on it in this town. A great case of it would have been 233rd that we just redid at the stop sign of Ambassador and 233rd. That was a great example of what delam is. And if you leave it, it continues to get worse. We can hot patch it, but eventually it just overtakes that. The labor involved in fixing this every year just increases, from year to year. So good question. Thank you.
When you say halfway, you've got other streets that are in this condition or becoming that condition.
That's correct. There's other neighborhoods in the same condition that they're wearing. Remember, as each year goes by, this event, in fact, that just happened today, is really difficult, and it creates an extreme amount of delamination when you have that freeze and thaw. That's what's creating this problem. Deer Creek is another neighborhood that's starting to fall apart. That's on the docket for next year. So we're trying to get the worst done as quickly as possible and move into the rest of it. And as we work along, it continues to fracture. So.
And you're bringing this up now, but it's targeted to be repaired. How long ago did you have this on the docket to be done?
It was actually on the docket before I actually took directive. I'm just moving the directive up. So
4 years
at
ago.
least 4 years ago. Yes, sir.
It wasn't all of a sudden.
No.
Can you bring us back to the dollars and cents part, the 900,000, et cetera? And Paul, can you give us a breakout of where that money comes from?
Sure. So Mayor and Council, each year we're given a certain amount of funding from the Minnesota State Aid funds. The water and sewer, obviously, that's our fund in the city. Stormwater, we have a fund for that as well. And then it's pretty simple breakdown, and Darcy can help me out with it too. But it's from each one of our funds. It's broken out accordingly, and we had it initially. Staff had this assessed for more money than this, so I'm actually excited to see this amount this year.
And again, assessments won't take place.
No, sir.
Citizens, the people who live on these streets are not paying for it.
They are not.
And again, you looked at 4 years ago, I'm kind of leading the witness, but 4 years ago, you planned on putting money away for such things as we have stuff to do in the future as well.
That's correct. So Mayor and Council, every year, 5 of us get together. It's Kate and Darcy. Well, this will be the last year with Darcy, but Parrish and Jeremy and myself.
I'm crying.
Have
Crying inside.
put our heads together for the last 4 years, and we've come up with a pretty good plan, and the plan is working. And I'm pretty excited just to keep moving forward and to keep adjusting we adjust it every year. Sometimes streets become unpredictable. Sometimes some streets get worse faster than others. And I don't have an explanation for that. It's just the way it works out.
You just
It's
move
fairly evolving.
put somebody in priority.
And then we'll be doing that again this year with Kate and Darcy. So.
And do you allow for any surprises when you're doing this as far as percentage of, here you're 990,000, do you allow for, if there's a second layer that's been breached or whatever, how do you account for that cash?
Actually, that's where engineering comes in. They've already been out to look at everything. They know exactly what we're gonna need to fix before this is put together. So Sam actually has already discovered all those numbers.
These projects are pretty straightforward, but we usually do include a contingency within construction, but it's usually minor for projects like this. It's kind of the project right behind us that happened last summer where you're doing a full reconstruct. That's where you may run into more surprises. But
Correct. And there were some surprises on Woodbine, not bad. But again, with the engineer's contingency, it worked out well. And it ended up actually just a tick under budget on that one as well. So.
And this number here now with oil prices being in flux, per se, asphalt, we always ask every year, or you tell us every year how asphalt is either going to be lower or higher. What do we know now, or do we even know?
It can affect it. It's actually a major piece of it. It can change it a fair amount. And it's hard to say what's going to happen by the time we need it from the plant. So, but that's what the contingency is for. That's what Sam's talking about.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stan.
yeah, thank you.
Sarah?
I did not have any questions on
Amy?
I don't have any questions. I just want less potholes.
Joe?
Nothing further at this time.
All looks good to me. So. Just gotta take a vote on this one. So resolution 2026-11, approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids for the 2026 street rehabilitation project and the Woodbine Street Extension Project. Do I have a motion?
Make that motion, Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Robinson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Udvig. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. On to item F, restricting parking on municipal state aid routes. I understand this is you as well, Sam.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. So as I just touched on in the presentation before, we do have some municipal state aid streets being proposed to be worked on. Therefore, we have to meet state aid standards in order to get that funding and accepted by state aid. So there's minimums you have to meet for street widths, and those streets do not allow for parking on both sides. So therefore, we have to enforce no parking on one of those sides. We already have it in the construction plans to show no parking signs to be installed, which state aid will see, but along with that, they need to see a resolution signed by the city council approving that, or acknowledging that there will be no parking on one side of those streets. So it's kind of just a formality we need to go through that in order for state aid to approve our plans and specs.
Thanks. Go down the line, Sarah. I'll start with you. Questions for Sam? Amy?
Not me.
Joe?
I have nothing.
Kevin?
I have no questions, sir.
I just have one, and that is, are the citizens along these routes like notified? Are they aware of this potential switch, or how does that work?
Yeah, that, I know we have not done that in the past. It's,
Mayor and Council, that's actually a good question, and I can get back to you on that. Let me do a little research, and I'll come up with a definitive answer for you.
Because I recognize there's really nothing we can do about it.
Correct.
Rather than just the sign showing up, I mean, if
Correct.
we could have some sort of,
yeah, we can
Noted.
look into maybe send something out.
okay,
Yeah.
thanks. So resolution 2026-12, restricting parking on Silver Rod Street and 227th Avenue from Quay Street to Poppy Street, and from Quay Street from Silver Rod Street to 229th Lane. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Fawnin. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Mulebauer. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you all. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
On to item G, gambling funds. Kate.
Mayor and Council, I'm actually gonna turn this one over to Darcy.
Darcy.
All I say.
Mayor and council, before you tonight is just a discussion on the gambling funds that was brought up, asking what those could be used for. This started back in 2012. We get 10% on their net profits. And we right now have, I think, four or five different sites that do pull tabs and stuff, and they have to turn in monthly this 10%. I put in there each year in March. I just filled it out. It has to be there by March 15th. We have to submit how much we've received, and like we earn interest on it. And then we have to note what we have spent out of there. So that gets sent to the gambling board once a year. I do have on there how much we've received, and we do have a balance in the account as of the end of 2025 of $246,000, a little bit over. I have noted different purchases that we have made. We had designated it to the fire department. It was something that we couldn't just transfer with them when they became their own fire district. So one of the other areas that we could spend this money on would be the police. So we kind of have designated that to the police now to use for any like some of their expenditures, but it's very kind of specific. It's got to be a capital expense, or I know that there's some that you can do for youth and stuff like that out of that list. So with that, we really, if council was going to start giving this to anybody outside, you would need to set up some guidelines for yourselves of what is your max? What is your max per person or per individual or group? What is your max per year? How many would you do per year? Would you open it up at a certain time during the year? There's a lot of different things that you would really want to
solidify in probably like some rules for your, for this. And then just know that then that money, we give it away, we won't have it for our own police expenditures. And you do have to really walk down the line and say, does this qualify in any of these categories? I'd hate to go and do it, and then at gambling board, I don't know how they would come back and say, hey, we don't agree with that expenditure. Because I know at the time we were building the City Hall Fire Station, we did ask the question of, could we put it towards the bond payments? And they said no. So with that, I just would like to open it up and see which, this is council generated, what you think is appropriate. I know we do have a gentleman out in the out there that has an email in there also requesting they had a special fundraiser, and they were wondering about getting that money back.
Josh, do you want to come forward now? Sure. Thanks, Josh. I had a long conversation with Josh on the phone, and he's got some really valid points, so I'm glad he's here, and the floor is yours,
Hi,
Josh.
thanks, Mayor, Council. Thank you. My name is Josh Fisher. I live in Oak Grove. We've lived here since 2017. I've worked for the company that owns the Ponds Golf Course and the Refuge Golf Club since 2012. We have 3 young kids in the district. So as Mayor Rolfe mentioned, we don't live in St. Francis, but we're in St. Francis every day for school activities, etc. About a year ago, I was appointed or conned into, however you want to say it, the president of the St. Francis Basketball Association. So we provide travel basketball for grades 3 through 8, Boys and Girls Travel Basketball Association. Up until this year, we had never conducted a fundraiser. So the prior administration, the prior board and president, they had never done any fundraising for the program. They cut costs other ways to keep people's fees and everything like that down. This year, I took it upon myself to conduct a cash raffle, which was wildly successful, right? So we have 140 kids in the program. We gave them each a booklet of 10 raffle tickets to sell for $20 a piece to grandma, grandpa, coaches, friends, family. Maybe some of you guys bought them, maybe not. If you did, thank you. So we set that money aside. So we raised netted $19,000, which was great. So we had many kids going around door to door selling those tickets. It came time to kind of settle up and talk about the financials of this, the raffle. I was made aware that the city collects the 10% that you mentioned. It was news to me. Obviously, we'll still, take the money that we earned and pay the tax if we need to. I'm not oblivious to the fact that, like, I understand taxes, and I know that taxes are collected, and money that taxes are collected on can be used for government, for fire, for police, for donating back. In this instance, my question, and I wanted to just pose it as a question to you, would be, with that sum of money, I don't feel, the board doesn't feel, we would just like that, the tickets that the kids go door to door selling, we would like to retain that 10% and not have it to go into that city fund, right? So we look at it as, it's a little bit different for us, having like a bingo event or someone sitting at the bar at the Ponds that doesn't even live in St. Francis playing pull tabs or e-tabs and generating hundreds and hundreds of dollars in that 10% tax. You said 240,000, right? So $2.4 million of gambling, 10% the city takes. So for me, I don't have a problem with the city keeping 10% of like all the pull tabs, all the e-tabs, all the bingo events that happened at Ponds and Beefs and the Legion and SETI's, all of those places, right? What I would like to propose would be an individual cash raffle sale for a youth sports organization is to let that youth sports organization keep that 10%, right? My child, a 10-year-old boy going through the Refuge neighborhood and walking through the Ponds neighborhood, selling $200 worth of raffle tickets. I don't believe that the city is owed $20 for that, right? On the other side of that coin, I certainly don't have any issues with the city keeping all of the proceeds of the 10% for e-tabs, pull tabs at any of the locations in town, right? I think it's just it's a very cut and dry, two separate identities, two separate organizations. And there are many, many different fundraising efforts by many, many different youth sports organizations in town. I know the football program does a huge one in the fall. I mean, I think they raise $100,000 or $90,000. They're twice as big as us, type of thing. You know what I mean? So there are different avenues to get that 10%. I just don't think it should come from a little boy going through a neighborhood selling tickets.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks. I mean, open for discussion
Yeah,
too. Like,
absolutely.
I get it. I understand it'll probably be hard to, it'll probably be hard to police. It'll probably, and maybe not. And my thought would just be to maybe just rewrite a portion of that city code to where it says 10% of all charitable gambling goes into the city administered fund, except a youth sports cash raffle. And it can be as simple as that, because that would exempt us, and you guys, the city still collects all 10% and can do with it whatever you like. Police, fire, municipality, however it works. I know the city of Andover, they donate back about $80,000. They have about $80,000 per year that they donate back to different 501c3s, Alexandra House, Hope for Youth, etc. I know Weston for Oak Grove, they did it for a time to where they had a set amount of money that came into that 10% fund. And they, as a council, sat down and said, this is what we're going to give. They gave $2,500 to the choir program. They gave $1,000 to the track and field program. They gave $1,000 to the cross country program, right? I understand that that is probably difficult for a council to sit down and say, this person deserves it and this person doesn't, because it's all one pool, right? So it's just who petitions for it, which can make your job very hard. I can see that. But if there was a change to the city code that says any cash raffle by a youth organization, and you would exempt that, then whoever else wants to come and petition for the balance of the funds, I mean, that's something that you guys would have to decide on. But I just personally don't think that the city needs my kids $20. One more thing that I'll mention is this was our inaugural cash raffle event, right? So the $22,000 that we raised, we paid out $3,000, so we netted $19,000. So the city gets $1,900. If we wouldn't have done a cash raffle, 0 of 0 is 0. Then the city collects 0. So it's not like the funds are expected, or it's just extra money. I mean, no such thing as extra money, right? But something that you guys don't count on year after year, or doesn't, it's not in your budget, right? So it's just extra. Like I said, I think that would be better served. The $1,900 would be, in my opinion, better served putting that back in and helping out the kids versus just going into a general fund that can go back out to anybody that petitions it.
Specific questions for Josh about, we're going to obviously have more discussion here, but anybody got specific questions for Josh?
Not really.
Very well presented, Josh.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, and just the conversation is all we're really looking for. We'll still continue to do cash raffles, right? It's not going to stop us, right? And I understand that there's a lot of people that do charitable gambling and do it right, which we do. And I know that there's a lot of people that don't do charitable gambling correctly and don't file and don't, report. And, the Minnesota state statute, you have to report everything. We everything by the letter of the law. We have secretary, treasurer, president, vice president. So we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. I would just like to see the kids kind of keep a hold of a little bit more of that money.
Thanks again.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Good job, Josh. So I'm going to kind of go first on this one because I've kind of been pushing Darcy and Kate on this just a little bit, because this is one of the ones I've heard from multiple citizens about this fund. And I don't want to create, to Josh's point, and Kate and I have had this discussion too, I don't, this pool of money. Right now, it's nice and clean and simple to just go to fire or police or whoever, but it doesn't feel right to me that, to Josh's point, that the city's taken this and what has the city done for the $1,900? It's a charity. And so my thought process goes along the lines of, these are charitable organizations coming to us. My quick thought off the top of my head is something like, maybe we reduce it down to 1% or something. Because there is some city time spent on this, not much. I've talked to Jenny about this. And when they come in and apply, Jenny can clarify this. Correct me when I'm wrong, Jenny, but they do have to pay a fee to the state first. So go ahead, Jenny, why don't you?
Yes, so all of the gambling is run by the Alcohol and Gambling Enforcement Department of the state of Minnesota. The city does not charge a fee for any type of application. However, we do have to process it through council because it has to be approved by a local jurisdiction, whether it's county or local municipality. So we add it to our packet. It gets approved by you guys. They come back and pick up the application and then they send it to the state and the state will issue and approve.
And here's where one of my other hangups is, let's just say Josh's organization does the raffle and the city takes $1,900. Well, then there's other groups that are coming in asking for the $1,900. So I don't like that look either. I just rather.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Pardon?
There's a lot to unpack. I think with this topic, a lot to unpack.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But what I don't think is fair is that, let's just say they're $1,900 in the city coffers and now we hand it out to another nonprofit that comes before us. And I just don't like the thought of different groups coming here and lobbying us for the money up to even a certain amount. I would much rather just say these are all charitable organizations coming to us. I'd much rather see it much cleaner to just say either a 1% or zero or whatever, because that's where it's going, is the charity. They're all charitable organizations in the first place. Why not reward the people who are doing the work and raising the funds rather than creating a pool that other organizations can come in and take? So I'm just throwing it out there. I'd rather see us go to 1% or zero or something like that, a model like that. So we'll go down the line, but that's my initial thoughts.
Before you go, Mayor, let me ask you,
Yep.
what would you do with the 246 that's sitting there now then? And that's part of the unpacking part, Joe.
Yeah.
For me, that's part of the unpacking.
Correct.
I'm curious, how long did it take us to get up to that
It's
number?
2012.
2012, so it's been,
14 years.
Well, let's just say it's 1%. I don't have a problem with some money going as Kate was saying, to buy dog food for the new canine program or something like that. I don't have a problem with it. So, some money staying there, but I just think these are charitable organizations coming to us and we're taking 10%. And why are we taking 10%?
it's a big. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm like I say, this is a discussion. I'm interested in whatever everybody else thinks. Go ahead, Joe.
Would part of that 10% also go to, say, if somebody, which I don't think anybody calls, but we have the peddler's license type thing. Is that somehow go to help pay for some of that? Nothing like that? Not associated?
No, we have a peddler's application fee, solicitors, the city runs
That's
those.
separate.
Mhm.
Okay. And wasn't sure if it fell in the same bowl or not. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the can of worms situation, which, Josh feels that, his kids, $20 shouldn't go to the city, and I understand that, where he's coming from, but then the Lions Club also feels that they do good work and it shouldn't go here, it shouldn't go there. You're gonna get residents as well that feel that I have no kids in school in the school district and my money shouldn't go to the school district at all. So that's kind of every organization that is this way is gonna feel the same.
That's
Right.
that's why I'm just throwing it out there. I think
Right.
it should be 1% across the board for all these organizations, because they all are providing some valuable service, every single one of them.
And then I'm curious too, as far as our policies right now. I mean, I guess you could give it to an organization, but we have to come up with a plan basically for the future for this? Is that
I would highly recommend
right?
that you set some guidelines of what are, you know, how much per organization, if you decided to start giving out, and when are you gonna do it? Are you gonna do it just as they come in? Cause once you give out one, you're gonna get a whole bunch, I would say.
That's why I don't want to go down, I don't want to go down that route. I
You
think
need to-
there's
you-
too many different ways to go with it. Go ahead,
Mayor,
Kate.
Mayor, so I think right now we've really got two big questions. Is one, going forward, we've got the money in the pot. We've got to handle that as one situation, but going forward and potentially do we take 1%, 0, 10%? It's really two questions. So we're trying to unpackage currently, Mark brought up, do we want to stay on track with the 10%? And I think that's one question to council that we need to clarify. And then the second and separate question would be what happens to that 200,000? Do you want to give a part of that away? Do you want to give any of it away? And how do we give that away? So I
Have a
wouldn't
third
tie the
question?
two. Yeah, probably. There's probably a lot more than two, but I think you've really got to draw a line between going forward, as Mark is indicating. And then separately, what do we do with the 200,000? So not confusing them together too much because they really are, we have the money. What do we do going forward?
For simplicity's sakes, that's why I'm saying if we brought it down to 1%. And the 1% that trickles in as time goes on, but I would just as soon keep the full 240, whatever it is, and that's for police department special projects. I think it just makes it very clean and very simple. I don't want groups up here constantly soliciting us, asking for it.
No, I
We're
think-
helping the charities by giving them, just cutting it to 1%.
I think police in general it should go to because that's the only way we can really offset the levy for all of our taxpayers evenly is by keeping it going to the police department. And I think that would be the best place for this current money to go. Moving forward, I guess my quick math average of what we have between 14 years is about 17,500 a year roughly. And that's obviously some comes big here, some comes little here, whatever, but on average, that's roughly where it's at.
Right.
So.
And I mean, knowing that, let's just pretend we went with the 1%. I recognize now we're talking a much smaller amount. But it's just a very clean process if we go to something like that. It's not this, I don't know how else to word it, so. Go ahead, Josh.
So again, like for me, like this, whatever that you decide for the 240 is great, right? I understand that it's there, you have to either keep it or spend it, right? But for coming in, every other municipality, like I mentioned, keeps and retains the 10%. So I think it's a good idea, in my opinion, sorry if I'm overstepping, but I would say, let's keep it at 10%. If it were me, let's keep it at 10%. So we do have that $17,000 a year that we can contribute to police, fire, etc. But then another subset of that, like you said, okay, there's a lot of things that happen here too, but poll tabs. I look at it this way. We talked about this, Mark. The guy sitting at the ponds who's up there, he doesn't even live in St. Francis, and he's been there all afternoon. He is having beers, whatever. He's drunk. That money, I feel like can stay with the community, right? That 10% you should take, right? That's fine. But the small little organizations, the basketball and football, and those are not school district associations. So SFBA has zero affiliation with ISD, right? So those little small cash raffle fundraisers, just put a subset in there, city code in there. Those small associations are exempt from that 10%. That way, it's a win-win. It's a win for me. I get my $1,900, I can buy 19 basketballs. You guys still collect 10% on all the drunks or not drunks, pull tab addicts sitting around at all of our local establishments. You guys are still collecting those. And I can tell you, like, St. Francis Athletic Booster Club is now in the Ponds, Deeps, Oak Roads, and Hastings, right? So that money can continue to file in, and I would venture to guess it's going to be a lot more than $17,000 per year going forward now with 4 businesses that have operable e-tabs. Keep that money, give us our.
Real quick, Tina, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, that, like you said, it's a messy situation. If he's talking about like the little schools and the charity, okay, what about at the Legion when they have bingo there and that money is supposed to go to the vets? So that money needs to come away from the vet?
Bingo's exempted. Mhm.
So real quick question I kind of have for Jenny on this is do you feel it's something we can delineate real quickly, the cash raffles like that from the other charities? Is that something that's easily determined, or is that something that we would have to do more work on to determine that?
I would put that to Darcy.
I have one question. I just was reading our code, and legally, it does say premises used for gambling are required to comply with Minnesota statute. If they weren't doing that in the bar, they were going out, is that exempted?
Travis?
We didn't sell any raffle tickets in the bar.
You phone a friend, Lifeline?
Mr. Mayor, council, as I understand it, the requirement to contribute to the fund would apply to any licensed lawful gambling organization that is engaging in activity within the city, regardless of where they're doing it or how they're doing it. There are some means, I can't give you specifics, but there are some instances where this type of raffling could be done through the state, through some sort of exemption permit that could then take that organization potentially outside of that category of licensed organizations. But we need, certainly, I would need more time to look into the nuance of all of that.
How much would that cost for you to do that? End of subject.
My overall thought though, back to it is, even the 1%ers, even the people who are doing pull tabs or whatever else, there is a distinction. I get the distinction. But even all those organizations from the vets to whoever are all very important. What I don't want to do is, I know other cities do it. Oak Grove does it too, but they have a little pool. They keep some of it, and the other goes to a pool. But I just see a lot of people then coming, and once the pool's exhausted, suddenly this group doesn't get any money, and this group gets this money. And I just look at it all as they're all, like to Tina's point, you know, if it's the vets, that's a great charity.
Yeah, where things stop.
So in an effort to keep it very clean, that's why I'm suggesting 1% or 0%. I don't know that I'm fixated on that number, but it just makes it very clean. And then we don't have everybody coming here applying for money. If they want to get money from St. Francis, well, then they got to conduct a raffle and go through the process. That's the way I look at it, rather than just coming with your hand out. They've got to do some work themselves. So I don't know. I'm defer down the line. Sarah, do you want to go?
It's a mess. I think this is something that is gonna require a work session. I'm sorry, but to go through and figure out all this stuff is not something I think we're gonna do here tonight. I think that it's something we need to look into, but I just don't think that, I mean, not saying that we can make it work or not. At this point, I don't really know if that's a possibility, but I think it's something that we definitely need to look into, because other cities do give back, and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I just think that in order to do it, to make it fair and easy, and not easy, but fair and the process laid out for everybody to have the same opportunity to get that money back. It's not something, there's a lot of questions. And I think we just need to sit down and hash out, and find out even what we can and can't do, because like Darcy was saying, you have to make sure that you're meeting requirements and you're doing all those things. So I definitely think it's something we need to really dig into and figure out what we can do to help those organizations.
I agree. I knew we weren't going to come to any conclusions tonight, but
Yeah.
and I don't know that we necessarily need a work session. It just needs to be on another meeting again, you know. I don't know. I don't know what else, you know, I think we can just put it as another meeting agenda down the road here and discuss it. Whatever research we need to
Well, I
resource,
would,
so.
I would argue, I mean, if we're gonna have 10% and we leave it at 10% based on the fact that, I mean, we're talking about the sales tax situation, other ways that we can offset the levy, so to speak. This is one way, and granted, it's not much.
You can't do it that way, though.
No,
Yeah.
but it's every little bit helps, right? We were looking for 100,000 last year. That was hard to find as it is. So every little bit that you can do, if you're taking that 10% from gambling and applying it to the police budget, which is our largest budget, and you do a great job, Todd, by the way, but I'm just saying, it is our largest budget. That's our largest expenditure. So if that offsets it, whether it's 10,000, whether it's 17,000. I brought up the sales tax to Kate a few months ago, and I talked because Coleman, our former administrator, they did something in Stillwater with it, with a park, but it has to be attached to projects, and we have to figure out whether or not we can do those types of things to begin with legally, and do it all above board to even make it worth that to offset the levy. So I did bring that up, by the way, quite a few months ago, but we're not quite in budget discussions yet, so I haven't dug deeper into it. But that was an idea that I had as well. So if we're looking at these different avenues that we can do it, this is another portion that it's like, if you want to do business in the city, that's kind of what you do. And I get it's a charitable organization, but to me too, and I'm not trying to be a jerk to you in particular, but I think those charities that do these bingo events, they bring in business for that business, right? Whereas if you're going door to door, you're not necessarily bringing in business into the city, so to speak, or to those businesses to benefit those businesses necessarily. I mean, you might go to Dairy Queen and get something to eat while you're here and stuff like that, but to me, that's more beneficial. And I don't know if legally with the policy set the way it is, and maybe you can answer this, we're not, I guess, like, this topic isn't here particularly to say, can this guy get his money back, right? So that's not something we decide tonight, as far as I understand anyway.
Correct.
But legally, could you do that right now if you want, given he did it on, like, it's like something that's already done with? Legally, could we do that if we wanted to even? Do you have that answer?
I don't necessarily have an answer, but I have some general advice, and that would be, if that's your intent, the recommendation would be to find a way to exclude them from the requirement to have to provide that money, rather than being in a situation where you collect it and then have to give it back.
Right.
Because then that opens the door to disparate treatment between different gambling
Right,
organizations, and it makes it very complicated.
Makes sense.
Amy?
Well, I agree with the mayor that it would be really difficult if we had people coming to ask for the 240 in this case. And I think that would be really hard to figure out. I do believe it should go to probably the police. And I'm probably too close to it, because having had sold $20 cash raffles door to door for several years with my daughters, I actually had no idea that 10% of that came to the city here. And I have to say that I agree with Josh, is it, that kids selling $20 raffle tickets door to door is very different than pull tabs. And it's a very different type of gambling. It's people, when they give the $20 for the cash raffle, they're excited they get to might win, but they're really giving to the organization. And if we had any idea that 10% of that was going to the city, I don't know, it just seems, it's very different. I think those two organizations, just to look at those two, because I don't know the others that we do the gambling permits for, but I think they're very different, and I think they should be treated differently if we're legally allowed to do so, and how that happens. But I would like to come to a solution, because $1,900 is a lot of money. And the organization that my daughters have done this $20 raffle ticket thing, we sold $15,000-$16,000 of tickets every year. That's a lot of money. And yes, it takes some staff time, but $1,900 worth of staff time, that seems like a big number. So I would definitely like to look into this more with some of the answers that we've asked. And then have a list of all the organizations that have gotten the gambling permits for us. I mean, who does this affect in the past, and really decide if we can treat them differently and how we can do that. And then after we've slept on it for 90 days, we should figure out what we're gonna do with the $240,000. Cause that sounds like the hardest one to me.
Kevin?
Well, first of all, I don't want to be in the philanthropic business of deciding who gets what, sitting back here in the grand chair and say, you know, in my time here, we've had the ambassadors come once or twice. We did decide that they do represent the city, so that was city related. We've had Alex House come 4 years ago and we haven't seen him since. We did give him some money, and again, the chief verified that we do use their service and there are needy persons that go to that service, so we felt that was necessary. As far as, I agree with Joe, as far as the police is our biggest budget. Again, nothing against the chief, but we do allocate a lot of money there already. If we made it some specialty item like for Victor or something like that, I can see that. But being able to pick and choose and say, yes, you may, and no, you may not, I don't know. The 1% wouldn't be a bad thing. Just take care of the filing and the admin portion of that. I can understand that. I don't know if this is the right thing to do or not, but I've had kids come to my door too. I give them $10. I don't want the ticket. I say, put it directly towards the club. And that should negate everything. You know, I feel good and they should feel good, but you know, that's not for everybody. Also, you know, I think of things like the fireworks. We put up $15,000 for public good for the fireworks. We take it currently from the liquor fund, but this could be something, you know, some of the 246 down the road when we do talk about that. But I think 1% is sufficient. And you know, Josh makes a good point about the kid going around knocking on doors, and we see it all the time. What are we doing for the 19, you know, for the 10%? That was my first question off the bat too, that the mayor did ask. So I suggest we talk about 246 later on. As far as Josh, he wants to leave whether he can know that he gets 1,900 back tonight or not. Is that rectifiable? I don't think that can happen, but. Well, you brought up a good point that we've never talked about or had to talk about, so I appreciate that fact.
And I will make one more point too, you know, of the 140 kids in our program, there are probably 70 of them are St. Francis resident kids. We're in Oak Grove, there's Nowden, there's Isani, there's, you know, it's not, you know, it's selling in different municipalities, right? So it's kids in Oak Grove selling in the St. Francis. Now, obviously that's wherever you pull the raffle drawing, whatever municipality that you pull the raffle drawing in is the municipality that gets to collect that tax. So my question would be then, if say Oak Grove had 1%, could I just go across the street into the parking lot of Ponds and the maintenance building area and do my drawing on my wheel and pull my winners there, right? Oak Groves is one of their sites, you know, so there's just a bit, not a threat by any means, but it's saying each municipality is different, and whatever municipality you pull the raffle in is the municipality that collects that 10%, takes that 10%. I know Oak Grove is 10% as well.
Your scholarship idea was admirable as well. I'd like to see that. But as far as being us dishing it back out, there's some administrations within these organizations that don't take good care of their money. So I definitely wouldn't want to aid or add. I want to be Chris Sogel. I want to be squeaky clean as far as if they're going to run the show and then they come to us and ask for money. But yet I know in the background their administration is not, you know, there's too much swag being bought, or sweatshirts and t-shirts, and there's always an abundance of or surplus of things that don't get accounted for. And I'm not saying that happens a lot, but it happens. I know it does. But 3
kids in the program, 6th grade, 4th grade, and 1st grade, so I'll be in it for a long time.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd be for the 1%. As far as the 246, let's talk about it at a work session, what to do there.
I think we just need a few more answers, and I mean, I'm okay whatever way we go with it. I just know that this conversation goes beyond Josh here and his particular group, because I have heard from multiple other groups that do fundraising in St. Francis. They've talked to me and they said, what are you doing with the funds you're collecting? That's the question I get. I've heard that from multiple different organizations. What are you doing with the 10% that you keep?
And it looks like we haven't done much. It's been building and done nothing with it.
Correct. But my question is, as you saw, based on some of the guidelines from the state. You know,
Yeah.
it is really restrictive, and it's all geared towards giving back
Right.
to the community. And what I'm arguing is that most of these organizations are coming to us, they're the charitable organization.
Right.
And rather than playing the game of, like I said, picking and creating, I think it is a small niche, so I think it's doable to create that, rather than creating little hiccups here and more things. It's just very clean to just say 1%. And so, yeah, 1% means that fund's gonna police department is gonna grow very slowly, but it's still gonna grow.
Sure.
It'll still be there for special projects. So I don't know, do you need, what more do you need, Kate, to drive another discussion, do you think?
Mayor and council, I would need to know what answers you're looking for.
Mhm.
We've
Mhm.
kind of thrown a lot on the plate, but what is staff bringing back to have another discussion?
Right.
So from that, yeah, what are your questions? And we can definitely get the data back, but I guess that's really what we needed. What do you want to know?
Anybody got any right now, or you want to think about it, or where are you guys at?
Well, the two questions are, one, what to do with the 240 would be for what public good can we serve with that? And if it can't go back into our coffers directly, can it go indirectly? Like Joe said, we're paying 15,000 for Victor, but then we're taking 15,000 off the bottom line of the chief's budget. And the chief wouldn't have a problem with that because he's not gaining or losing. It's equal.
I think to me, it just makes sense to offset the police budget for many reasons. It's the only, according to the list that I see, it's the only legal way to put it towards the levy, and the levy affects every resident, right?
Right.
So that positively affects all of our residents, whether it's 10,000 this year, 20,000, whatever it might be. I mean, looking at the spreadsheet here too, there's been expenditures here and there to where there could have been more previously, but fire used them. And now that fire is a separate entity, I assume that's why they're not in the discussion. So if we could offset, I mean, there's some years here where 2015, 9.438 thousand was given to fire for fire MES Midam. 4,000 one year, 20,000 another year, 20,000 another year for equipment and a vehicle. That's the type of stuff that we could benefit our police department with, which offsets the levy, which directly affects the citizens' taxes. So to me, it's something that's the one way to give back to everybody in St. Francis with it, where it would only make sense. That's where I don't think 10% is huge. I mean, if it's kind of standard with all the other cities, I would say let's do that, just because it makes more sense to benefit everybody in the city. And it helps to offset that cost. Now, again, some years it might be more, some years it might be less, but that's the best way for the people of St. Francis to benefit from that type of fund.
But then do you differentiate, like Josh said, mobile gambling as opposed to stationary gambling?
I wouldn't, I guess. I mean, it's kind of weird, what you're saying. I don't know how 100% that I get what you're saying, because that's one other thing was to unpack is if we're 10% and Oak Grove's 10%, if he wants to pull it across the street, then Oak Grove gets that 10%, and that's fine. If everybody that runs a raffle that lives in Oak Grove wants their city to benefit, however Oak Grove spends it, if Oak Grove's 5%, more people I would think would want to go there to do it. They might not have as many places such as bars and whatnot in Oak Grove, just because it's a different setup of a city, but more people might go to a different city just to pay less out of their pocket and benefit their organization more, which they would already do depending on what other cities do, I would think, if they wanted to do their research. But
Same with sales tax as well.
right. So I mean, there's a number of things where, I mean, I'm going to continue to shop here. I live here, so it's something that, I think a lot of us, it's become our community to where we frequent the businesses around here, but there are people that go elsewhere or stop on the way home because they think it's cheaper to grocery shop. It's no different than that. So if it's pretty standard across the board at 10% for most cities, I would probably leave it there, only to benefit our residents based on that. I get what you're saying with the charity and all that, but again, I think if you give certain delineations to certain types of this and types of that, that can open up something too, which I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you call a bingo event a a youth sports organization to where they could abuse it or not, but I think some of those things, it kind of opens up a can of worms, I think, when you start picking and choosing certain things to allow and not allow. So it's, to me, it could be a bigger headache, but with this currently, I would say give it to the police station to offset the levy. And if we do give all 240, whatever, 246 to the police station in 1 year, or if you want to offset it, 24,000 for the next 10 years or whatever you want to do out of this. And then obviously that fund will still grow. You could do that. If you put it all in one basket, then too, that helps for next year's taxes. Hey, you didn't raise them as much, you kept them down more, but then the next year you don't have 246 to give to them. So then your tax rate's higher. And then so why'd you raise taxes so high this year? So it's something about understanding on how all that works. That's kind of what happened with the COVID money. We had a little bit of a buffer there for a couple years that helped the rise in taxes. Because the same amount of dollars were going to be spent no matter what, but some of it didn't come directly from the residents. But then once that money ran out, the same amount of money is still being spent. So it's, oh, now you're raising it, now you're spending too much, when it's perception, right? That's not necessarily reality, but it's perception. So
It's just my thoughts. I personally would not want to spend the whole $240,000. And I think Darcy kind of alluded to this too.
yeah,
That you've got to keep a base amount in there to keep the fund alive. But I look at it more from a standpoint of, it would be every year the police department can have $50,000 out of it. And as the fund replenishes, you keep 50,000 as your base. And then the 50,000, anything above it, the police department can spend $50,000 a year on whatever else. Go ahead.
Mayor, Council, we're kind of going down another path.
Yes.
So just to clarify, so right now, these funds do not offset the levy. These are, if all of a sudden PD needed, right, all of our radios went out,
capital, right?
right? Like it's a one-time expense, so it doesn't impact like that COVID money does. And it's requested as needed. So PD may not ask for it for 10 years, and then they may be back for 2,000, and then they may be back the next year for 10. So it's not something that's gonna be consistent.
Isn't
It
it?
doesn't get used with a levy.
Okay.
It is truly single purchases that would otherwise come out of our capital improvement that we've been able to fund. And that's why the
That is
items
part
that
of
are
the
on
levy.
here. Pardon me?
That is kind of part of the levy. It's not, but it is, right? Because you have to get the money from collecting it from the levy.
And the capital improvement never goes down either. It always goes up.
Right.
Right, so but again, it's kind of the above and beyond where maybe we didn't plan on getting radios next year, we don't have the budget for it. Or maybe an expense has come up. Hey, maybe our drone has a wing problem, right? So it's going to be for things that are not the normal. It's not used to offset the levy. So to divide it out or to have any rhythm to it, and that's why you see the expenditures are all over, because it's kind of as an as-needed basis
Right.
to offset what we would otherwise be levying for, outfitting a fire vehicle would have been in our CIP, but it didn't need to because we were able to do it here. So yes.
So it has to be an emergency?
No, it's just not used to offset the levy.
Well,
It's used above and beyond in a year.
right.
We're not saying we're taking 50,000 from PD and replacing it with this money. This would be an expense above that. It does not impact the budget, the annual budget number.
I get it, but I don't get it.
I know.
Because it's a different, it's just like businesses that say we have a sales department, you gotta charge that to the sales department type of thing, to where it's all the same business, but yet it's different. So it's
the way the rules are written.
yeah, it's just goofy.
Did that clear it up?
No.
I'm still waiting to hear what you want me to bring back.
I don't know that, for me, it's not anything to bring back. For me, it's more if council members want to sit on this and think a little bit more about it before reacting tonight, that's more my approach. I'm pretty fixed. I'm not, obviously, everybody's got their own ideas and opinions. I'm just fixated on the very simple and easy one where the money goes to the police department and it's a 1% thing instead of the 10%. But that's, I respect I never like things just dropped on my lap and expect to vote in a night. So I respect the fact that everybody's got to think it through and come back. So does anybody have any specific questions? Go
I
ahead,
do.
Amy.
Well,
Yeah.
I would want to know if legally we can treat the cash raffles different than the pull tabs. Can we do that? Can we charge a different percent? Or charge them in a different way? Or can we say, okay, we have to charge them, but we can donate it back? I know that muddies the
No,
waters, but
good
that's
questions.
where I would
Yep.
want to know. Can we treat them differently? A gambling organization.
Can I?
Yes.
One of the things on there is to a youth program.
Right.
So you could always, could say, we're gonna give the money back. That is one of the legal expenditures on there. So how you want to handle that is totally up to you.
And then I would let Travis answer the rest.
But I would want to know, can we treat them differently? Can we charge 1% to the youth organization and 10% still to the pull tabs?
I don't think so.
Can and should are two different considerations there. Preliminarily, the question I want to answer for myself is the type of gambling that they're conducting the type that requires a license from the Minnesota Gambling Control Board? If so, then I would lump it into that category where they're required to pay into the 10%. And if they're in that group, then my advice would be to treat all of those organizations exactly the same. Explicitly speaking, could you treat them differently? Maybe.
You can do a lot of things.
We need more time to research that question, provide a confident answer for you.
And maybe the answer is we charge them the 10%, but we agree to give them 9% back. Or whatever, you know.
He cautioned against that earlier though, too. You'd either exclude them from needing it at all or, which again, still
The risk with that
opens the
is-
same door if you
is
ask me.
Subjecting the city to scrutiny or challenges by other gambling organizations that are alleging disparate treatment for some reason or another. And it'd be up to the council to decide if they want to invite that type of scrutiny or controversy or not.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, we don't have the policy set up right now. If we wanted to refund the $1,900 today, we could not do that because we don't have parameters in place and we don't have it, our ducks in a row on that, correct?
Mayor, council, I'll refer over to Darcy.
Be no different than anybody coming and asking for a donation from us.
I mean, the state has laid out what we can do with this money. And that is one of the things that you can do with the money. I just think in the past, we haven't wanted to go down that kind of rabbit hole that you do it for one person, you're not doing, where does that stop? That is what you have to think about. Do you want to put some guidelines? This, I think, is a unique situation. Nobody's ever in the years that we've done it has ever come back and said that they did this offsite. I really thought it was just the pull tabs in the businesses. So legally, I don't think you can treat it any different. They would have to report it on their form and pay in the 10%. At that point, do you want to go and follow these guidelines from the state that says that we can give back some money, but then the next organization coming in, do you have them prove the same thing that, hey, we did a cash raffle? Or what? It's a rabbit hole.
Agreed.
Mayor and council. Josh, have you looked into excluded raffles with the state of Minnesota? So there is something with excluded raffles, but your annual prize limit has to have a cap.
SFAB St. Francis basketball, we ran our cash raffle through the St. Francis Athletics Booster Club. They are a booster club that has been set up in the last couple of years. As a 501c3 without a charitable gambling there's different steps that you have to go through from what I'm told, like to be able to go through and get all of your applications and to become a charitable gambling organization. Like they can run as many raffles as they want and they can give out whatever prize denominations that they want. So a 501c3 like we are subject to we can still gamble, we can still do the cash raffle under the basketball association. But since we haven't gone through the extra, if you will, charitable gambling licensure from the Department of Revenue and charitable gambling, we are limited to like 5 events per year that we can do. And then they cap us and they tell us what amount we can give back. So basketball association could do one, but we would need to pay out like 80% of our intake, right? So very small amount. So we chose to do it through St. Francis Athletic Booster Club because they have the bigger license, if you will. So it's all ran through them. And then we can pick whatever denominations that we run. That's why we did it through. But I have not looked into that. But I would think that everything is gonna fall under their license, under their licensure as far as paying out and the 10%. And that's gonna be at the ponds, that's at Tasty's, that's at Beefs, and that's at Oak Roads. They're the only, those are the only 4 businesses in town that have a gambling license. St. Francis Athletic Booster Club is running full tabs and tabs.
I would look at excluded raffles just to see if there's check boxes that you can look to. And if you mark those check boxes off, there is a potential that you could run 1 raffle a year if that's all you're planning on doing.
We would run 1 raffle.
Because it's all under the boosters, is what you're saying?
Okay.
So there are multiple cash raffles being run under SFABC.
I would find out though if you even need a
Our
license
finance.
to begin with, because if you don't fall under that category somehow. Okay.
But I think there are a lot of people that don't know any better and they just do it, they don't know, right? So there are like PTO for elementary school, they run a cash raffle for years and years and years. My wife got on the board for the PTO and like, hey, you guys fill out your application. Tattletale, but like a lot, and they're not the only organization. Tons of people do it, and they don't know that it happens.
Where do you guys want to go with this? What do you want to do? You want to think about it and bring it back to the next meeting? What do we want to do?
Maybe one, sorry.
No, yep, go ahead.
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
then we're done. So maybe the keeping it at the 10%, and then the only people that you give money back to are people that have paid into that 10% fund. Right? Like I gave you 1,900, you give it back to me. If the fire department comes looking for money, they didn't do any raffles, they didn't do any fundraising that contributed to that big fund. And I get it, that's a lot more work, a lot more time and money to figure out who did what, but you know, there's not that many of us in a small community like this. I can say, hey, you know, you have the permits, there's the 11 people that did cash raffles. We're gonna get petitions for 11 people to give money back to them. If they come looking for it, great, we'll give it to them. If they don't come looking for it, then put it to PD. That's just a thought.
I'm gonna have to do more research.
Yeah.
And have more longer conversation to understand fully what exactly some of this means. I see the list of stuff and to me I read it differently, I think, than what it actually means. I understand it differently than how it's worded, but that's something I would need to clarify, I guess. I mean, ideally, I would think that the police would be still cut and dry, again, given our largest budget and whatever, and offset it. That's my opinion, but I would still probably keep it at the 10%. That's just my take on that.
Any final thoughts, Amy?
I think we're beating a dead horse.
Yeah, I
Tonight.
agree. I agree. I don't think we're going anywhere with it, so let's bring it back. I mean, everybody's got to
So I'll make a motion to continue it till the next meeting or 2 meetings?
I don't think it
or when would you?
I don't think it needs even a motion. It was just a discussion item, so
Correct.
Okay.
I think we just bring it back. I mean, I know, I realize there's not much for you to dig deeper, maybe just a few things, but I think everybody at least has plenty to think about in the meantime. So Josh, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Nice job again. So let's move on to meeting open to the public. Anybody wishing to speak?
Just want to touch a little bit on the road construction that's going to happen. I've been in touch with, long before Paul was even around, with Steve and our former works director. I was in the trades for 35 years. I know a little bit about it. And the delamination is what happened with that delamination. There was a year, MnDOT puts all these specs out, and this was one that failed miserably, and we all got stuck with it. What I want to tell you is you guys the city bought Public Works that hot patch machine, and his crew was out in front of my house last year, and that money was very well spent. Those patches are holding, but there's still delamination that's popping up around them. So that's one thing I wanted to say, is that was money well spent, and those patches are still holding great. Your nonprofit stuff there, my advice is to you is to look in to see what is involved in the nonprofits. I run one of the biggest kids fishing clinics, and I won't go nonprofit for many reasons. The legalities and all that. If you're going to give back to the kids like his, you're opening up a huge can of worms, because what he just said is the boosters control all the gambling in town. So now you ain't going to get any money if you're going to say, yeah, we're giving it back to kids, because they are the kids. You have to figure out a way that, like Amy said, that, okay, a low budget nonprofit raffle type deal. It's and one of the funds, like you said, why can't you take some of that money out of that fund and use it to donate to the kids that are taking care of the hockey rink? You know, years ago, I said that we should have had sponsors pay for that hockey rink, and then they could have paid the kids back. And that's still a possibility. I'm sure County Market would pay to put an ad up on them boards. Everybody drives by it. But anyways, that's what I wanted to say, is that hot patch machine that Paul's crew bought last year, you guys approved, well, money well spent.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
All right, on to reports. City Administrator report. Kate.
Mayor and council, I don't have a lot. We are watching our 2026 bonding request, but to put that into perspective, I looked at the data. There are 233 jurisdictions with 1,547 projects worth $3.2 billion on the table this year. So the state has not funded bonding projects for cities the last 2 years, and they are now at a 3.2 to help cities, counties, and townships with current projects. So it's going to be a really tough year. This is really our last year that we can make a go at it, as we need to do the project next year. So we'll see where it lays, but there are over 1,500 projects on the table, and a majority of them are water and sewer. They dominate that list. So next Monday, we're doing on the 23rd, we've got the interviews. We still have 3 people. There's the blood drive is in this room next Monday from 12 to 6 p.m. And then this Thursday, there's a senior fair from 10 to 12. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but projects keep moving forward. So
Questions for Kate? Anybody?
Sure. You got nothing. Great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Jill, you're up. Bottle Shop Annual Report 2025.
All right, Mayor and Council, before you is the 2025 annual report for the St. Francis Bottle Shop. Current staff include 6 employees, 4 full-time, 2 part-time employees. As of the time of the report, that was standard. We are actively hiring a part-time employee that will begin interviews for this week to get us through the summer months. On the next page, we see the 5-year comparison of our income statement. A couple of things to note is the giant jump in THC drinks. It's double what it was in 2024, over $100,000 for the year. Quickly becoming one of our main categories, definitely one of the main reasons that we had a very successful year in 2025. Next slide is gross sales. Nationally, all liquor is down in sales. Trends are changing. People are noticing the ill effects of alcohol consumption. So nationally, we're down 2.2%. We were down about 1.8% year to date versus 2024 in overall sales. Still a very solid year, $3.2 million. On the next slide, gross sales by type. Beer is still the major category here. Liquor being the second, and then wine. After that, it is going to be THC as one of the main categories. As far as by month goes, month by month, we still see our biggest months of being over the summertime. 2025 had a couple of months that were bigger than 2024, being January and October. There was really no significance in those months being more successful than the others, possibly the dates that the calendar dates land on. But every month did trail a little bit to 2024 in overall sales. With that, customer counts are also down a little bit. See a decrease in customer counts in 2025 over 2024. I think my local competition, being my former employee with GWIL, they are beginning to notice a downward trend in their sales, so they are getting more aggressive. And I do note that when I drive by their locations, they're usually targeting items that I'm also promoting. So they're paying attention to what I'm doing and making adjustments as needed. Overall, I don't think it's affecting us that much yet. Sales by product. Beer is still at 48%, which went down 1% over last year. Liquor and wine pretty much hold steady with where they were before, and THC has gone up from 2% to 4% of overall sales. Gross sales, cost of goods, and gross profit. Again, down just a little bit over 2024 in total sales. Gross profit was actually up over last year, which I'll get to in the next couple of slides. Almost a full 2% increase in gross profit year to date over 2024. Actually, the last 2 years since I've been there, we've seen almost 2% increase. So that isn't going to continue to climb like that. We're right about where we should be for gross profit based on how we buy and what we're selling at. I think being close to 30% is a very solid number. And a lot of that, again, is THC being sold at a higher gross profitability. Operating expenses. The biggest line here is going to be our personnel line. We did see a little bit of an uptick with making Kyler a full-time employee, obviously benefits and things like that that go along with full-time employment. At the same time, though, having another full-time employee has quite a bit more ownership and less need for more part-time employees. So it's a little bit of a give and take, and I thought it was a good adjustment to make personally. Operating income did go up as well. So that's the amount of money left over after operating expenses are subtracted from gross profit. So we're continuing to go up. It wasn't as much as previous years, but it's still going up and not down, which is what we want to see. Our cash balance has gone up the last 4 years. This last year was $95,000 increase over 2024. And that brings us to our trends. So THC is still the #1 trend. I think pre-mixed cocktails in the liquor category is the best growing category other than THC. Most other categories have seen a significant decrease in sales. to go from 0.4% to nearly 4% of overall sales, I think is a huge number. And for the time being, we still have it, so we're still pushing it very hard and continuing to grow our profitability on that. Then I just kind of did a recap, things that we did over the course of the year. Can't talk about the walk-in cooler yet because that's 2026. But I like to do something big at the beginning of every year. Last year it was adding an entire 16-foot gondola, double-sided. It doubled our wine selection. It doubled our whiskey selection. Just made the store layout a lot more shoppable. Allowed us to bring in quite a few new items, and just the store looks a lot better with it. We did make the adjustment to our military discount. It was previously just on Mondays. We offer it all the time now. It didn't affect our GP at all. I mean, we're still on the up and up, so I didn't think it was a bad decision to make. I think a lot of people actually really appreciate it. And I don't think we realize just how many veterans we have in our community. But it's a lot more obvious now because they make sure that you know that they're veterans. And a lot of times you don't even have to ask, you know, they've got a veteran hat on or a shirt or a jacket. It's just a cool feeling to give back to them for that kind of stuff. It's nothing really that big. It's basically just covering the tax that they're paying. So we added some shelf identifiers over the aisles in March. I don't think people really look up all that much to see them, but they're there, and it makes it a lot easier to just look and see what you're trying to find and walk to that section. And then again, talking about Kyler going to full-time, when Christy put in her notice, that was when I got the idea, and me and Kyler started talking about him potentially going to full-time, rather than having him maybe last a year or two and then moving on to something else, you know, getting him that stability in the job. I think it's paying off. He's still got lots to grow, but he's a young kid, but I'm not a young kid anymore. So having someone like him that me and Crystal can, you know, kind of teach and push things off onto him, it'll be good for the store. We talked with DoorDash in June and then went live with them in September. For the year, we did $6,200. And I think that number is going to keep growing too. People like not having to go out and do stuff. I think COVID kind of wrecked a lot of people in that way. I myself am a very shut-in person, which is why I get nervous talking even in front of you guys. I don't know. It's easy to use. It can be very beneficial. I don't know that using it for a liquor store is necessarily beneficial, but at the same time,
If there's less people on the roads that have been drinking, it's better.
if you're making the decision to have someone else bring it to you, I mean, that's more responsible than drinking and driving or sending somebody up that probably shouldn't be driving. We expanded our THC section in October, right about the same time that we found out that federally they were shooting it back down again. So it wasn't a huge expense. It was maybe a couple $1,000s for additional shelving, but when we did add the cooler this year, that section really became a lot more noticeable of a section. So it tied itself together. I wasn't really sure how it was going to play out. I just knew we needed more space for what we were trying to do. And now the section looks really great. We did start a Black Friday allocation bourbon thing that went over really well. There was about a dozen cars in the parking lot on Black Friday morning. And I think I sold like $5,000 in whiskey in about 15 minutes. So it worked. I mean, the people came, the people liked it. They were all able to get bottles that they wanted. And I think it'll grow, just word of mouth. You know, they'll go brag to their friends and their friends will be like, where'd you go? And that just grows over time. We did a little bit of Facebook giveaways, actually gained a ton of followers doing it. Just with one giveaway that we did, we gained an additional 117 followers in a couple of short weeks. I don't know what that does for us as a business aspect of it, but it can't hurt. I mean, even some of the conversations that go on, I know you guys talked about not talking on social media. Well, I'm a liquor store, so it's a little bit different for me. And I know that I probably have to watch what I say sometimes too, because I am part of a city, but I think having that open dialogue from that aspect is huge, as long as they don't start getting into things where we're talking about city stuff, you know, like talking about what's happening at a liquor store is one thing, but saying, you know, you're raising your rates because they raised the water rates and whatever other conversations they might have. That's where I kind of just either stop talking about it or I message the person individually and just say, Chad, stop, or whoever it is. It's usually Chad. Uh, and then there's just some pictures of some displays and some fun things that we did. Overall, I feel like we had a really good year. Again, sales being down, but gross profits being up. I think that where we're at and what we're doing, it's gonna maintain that same kind of ratio for as long as I can make it. Obviously, everything got shot down at the state level this year for anything new happening, so we don't have to worry about grocery stores getting liquor this year necessarily, but that's probably going to be the biggest thorn in my side when it does finally happen. And then whatever construction we do right there on 47 will impact us greatly too. But we have a new walk-in cooler. I'll talk about that next year. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free.
I got nothing at this time, but good job. Thank you, and keep it up.
Thank you.
Same thing, when I'm in there, employees are always friendly, store's always looking good, so.
You came in when we were doing a remodel
Yeah.
and it didn't look really good. So
I wasn't
that was
worried.
a
I could
cooler
tell-
reset. I was like,
Fine, no, seriously, everybody's always friendly, it always looks good, so good.
thank you. Appreciate that.
So,
Yeah, I think you're doing a great job. I like your presence on Facebook. I think several other people do too. I'm looking forward to more of your tastings this summer. That always seems to bring people in, and especially when we have the food truck there.
Mhm.
People really like that. And, you know, we did have a period where you would walk in and employees didn't greet you, or employees were on their
Doing
computers
homework.
doing homework. And we don't see that anymore.
Good.
And not all the employees even, I'm sure they don't even probably recognize, I don't know if they all.
No, they
know
don't.
me or not, but.
They don't. They
they
definitely don't.
Know that I'm on city council and I feel like sometimes, oh, is it not working? Oh, it's turned off, I guess. Sometimes, you know, just that initial when you walk in and they greet you right away, and it makes you feel welcome there, and people who had stopped going there that I knew have started going back there, so that's very encouraging, so thank all your staff for doing a great job and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Kevin?
I want to know how many aliases Sarah has for DoorDash. No,
Seven.
Just,
Seven.
wow,
One for each day.
just kidding. No, very good report. I appreciate the drop in beer sales. Do you think those people migrate over the east side of things?
I think that THC has taken from every category to some extent. I think that the fact that wine and liquor haven't gone down is kind of weird, but you know, these are big numbers, so they might be fractions of percentages that it's just taken a little bit here and a little bit there. But 1% out of 60 plus is still pretty small.
All right, and how often do you do that secret shopper visit like that, or comparison shopping? How much of that do you do, or do you have any spies out there that do it for you, and so you can stay competitive? Or I mean, you can still be a little higher, and you've got the product on the shelf. That's awesome.
I do like to shop other municipalities. I try to stay out of G-Will just because they all do know me. So I get looks, and sometimes they'll say things, but I'll go to the other guys, and you know, I can talk to them. We treat each other like we're kind of a privately owned business because we coexist in the MMBA. So we like to bounce ideas off each other, and even like bringing DoorDash in, that was a conversation with the Isani liquor store manager. I was watching them do it, and I was just at their store for 20 minutes, and they had 4 or 5 orders, and he's like, "We got zip code, we got your area code, like coming out here." So he kind of got me onto it, and
Sure.
bounce ideas off each other.
Did you find much difference between the municipal liquor group that you now belong to compared to the general retail one that you might have been, or were you, I suppose you didn't get any exposure at G-Will at your old?
No, all the managers I had there, I hired and trained myself, or trained for the most part myself. So there it was, I'm the new guy still here, you know,
But
like
the association portion, have you seen, is there a lot of parity between the retail association and the?
it's very similarly ran. More Big Brother like though, I think, like where they're actually looking out for you than trying to steal ideas and that kind of stuff. The MLBA and the MMBA do meet together when we go to the Capitol every year. So the structure is the same, but I think the camaraderie is a little bit greater. And then we do have a conference coming up in April that we go to,
Sure.
where all the liquor store managers and some assistants and even some like financial directors and stuff go to them. So we get lots of lectures and classes, and we learn a lot about the industry and what's changed and what we need to do to make it continue to change in the right way.
All right. Yeah, I know I think I said it before, there's just a little over 200 and some municipal liquor stores. It's a resource that we're fortunate to have, and you've done a good job stewarding this one to the numbers that we see here today, and we greatly appreciate it, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Just close it out with, good job, Joe. I appreciate your report, and I just feel like it's in good hands. So that makes me feel good. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for Joe? All right. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
On to council member reports, Sarah.
I attended my favorite meeting for water. It's interesting. I'm still trying to learn a lot about it, but it's, we had a quorum this time, so, and they did open it up to, you can attend via Zoom, and there were 3 people who did that. So I think that's maybe our ticket is, you know, and it actually was almost an hour meeting this time. So there was some actual business. A lot of times you get there and it's just, there's not a whole lot to go over. So I think that Zoom option has been a good option for some of those people who maybe otherwise would just skip. And we're trying to get everybody to be there. So, yeah, but again, you know, anybody who wants to step in and do it next year, I'm encouraging you to jump in.
Thanks, Sarah. Amy.
I don't have anything to report. That's
Joe.
I read the letter we got from the county. I did respond to it for clarification. I did get a phone call actually back by Tom Hunt. I had a really good conversation with him, which helped me understand where some of the language comes from, where he says certain things are prohibited by the state. I didn't see where things weren't permitted when I read the statute, when I read the Secretary of State policies, but the way that he explained it to me made a lot of sense on why we were getting that response, right? Because it didn't make sense why were they saying things are permitted, but it's not listed in the law that way. However, it is in the law, it's just the way it's worded is very goofy because it talks about how they have to do it by lot. And by doing it by lot, if you did extra here or extra there, then it wouldn't necessarily be as random or it wouldn't be by lot. Some of the arguments, I guess, that ACID has proposed to them would be, well, you keep drawing until you get St. Francis or whatever, so to speak. And it's like, then you would be discriminatory, I guess, so to speak, towards people that weren't chosen is the idea that he comes up with. So I understand the legal angle as far as where they're saying things aren't permitted. You know, I did mention it to you, Mayor Vogel, and I understand where you're coming from as well. I mean, it'd be nice too, I guess, if our county commissioners would put out a resolution as well. But again, it's ultimately up to the state and the legislature to allow certain things. I think Tom Hunt himself, he's kind of bound by the law to where he doesn't, in particular, he can't really do much with that information. I appreciated the phone call I had with him. You know, I talked about how I believe ACID's honorable in their intentions, how I support what they're doing. But he did help me understand why we got that type of response, right? So I do understand it now where he's coming from, and we had a really good conversation. And he did invite anybody to call him at any time. So just a heads up on that.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Kevin.
I met with Paul and Jeremy today for a little bit on some different topic items, including our broken hearted sign out there. Next week we have a Ram River Fire District meeting on Tuesday, and Monday we have our work session. Other than that, the blood drive again, can you, Kate, repeat for us when the blood drive is and then the senior?
Yep, so Mayor Kutzel, the senior event is this Thursday and the blood drive is Monday, the 23rd.
Okay, they're both worthy causes, especially the blood drive, so please make yourself available for that. That's all I have.
Thanks, Kevin. I don't have anything special to report tonight, so again, we'll see you next Monday, March 23rd. It is open to the public, but it's primarily just, we're going to be interviewing the 3 candidates for Darcy's position. So With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Muehlbauer. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilman Faunas. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pull the same sign. Meeting adjourned at 8:13 PM.